Here's a tweet from O'Brien. Just saw the trailer for Spenser Confidential. I'm a simple human. I see Winston Duke and I'm in. Also, was that Post Malone? And here's one from Jared. Counting the days until Spenser Confidential. You guys know I'm excited because Winston Duke is here, the star of Black Panther, Us, and now Spenser Confidential. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, your new movie, Spenser Confidential, comes out on Netflix tomorrow. What is it about? Tell us about this movie.
So it's a retelling of that classic TV show, Spenser for Hire. And now we've taken an updated view. It's still based in Boston and centered around Spenser and Hawk. And in our movie, they're just like the unlikely duo who find each other, find family in each other, and now find something that that's worth risking everything for.
Yeah.
So it's an action movie, it's a drama, it's got a lot of humor as well, so it's not anything that feels too heavy. And it kind of reminds you of those old school 48 hours.
Like buddy cop type,
thrillers,
yeah.
and like it's humorous and all these things. So a lot of things for pretty much everyone.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed about it was that, gentrification is a topic. Do you hope that it brings up discussions about that issue?
I think it could bring up discussions about that issue, but it's not just about that. I think that's what's really cool. It doesn't become preachy at all. But it is about gentrification. It's about a landscape that we think we know.
Right.
We think we know Boston because there's so many things that have come out of Boston. Boston's such a big cultural identity in itself. But when you look at it this way, you're like, oh, I never thought of Boston this way. I never thought of the gentrification that's happening in Boston. I never thought of like the youthful scene and how Boston's changing. So in that sense, Spenser's now a fish out of water, and Hawk is the character that is a child of his time. You know what I mean? And he's the one who is the lens of like looking at the gentrification and being in there. So it's an interesting kind of take on it all.
Cool. And your character is an MMA fighter in this movie, and there's a few like real action scenes in here. What was training for this role like?
It was pretty cool. So we had different UFC fighters come and help us prep for everything. We had a guy named Cowboy Sharon, another guy named, I think, Mark Schlinger. And they helped us essentially create the physical language of the piece. So what's it like being in the ring? And then what's it like fighting the bad guys outside the ring? How is it just organic, punching someone in the face, maybe putting them through a wall, using different makeshift things around you as weapons. So just creating a fight language.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, we've had a few of your Black Panther co-stars here, Chadwick Boseman, Lupita Nyong'o, Daniel Kaluuya, and not one of them will tell us anything about the sequel.
Hey,
Are you going to keep this streak going?
You know how it is.
Is it that you guys can't tell us, or are you guys still also waiting to find out?
Listen, here's the thing. They know that the pressure is real when it comes to people grilling us, so they don't really share anything whatsoever about Marvel World. They don't share anything about Black Panther, the Avengers. We find out, sometimes we have to go to a secret location to read the script in-house. Anytime we're prepping, I remember getting my script and someone would hand-deliver my script to my door and I'd have to sign something. Saying I received it.
It's not a joke.
It's no joke. And then when there's rewrites, so they come up with another scene or a different interpretation of the scene, they would then send you new pages. Someone would hand deliver that. Take your old pages. You'd have to sign that you gave the old pages back.
Wow.
And so it's crazy. Your script is watermarked, so if you lose it, they know you messed up.
You messed up.
Like, it's crazy.
This is like FBI level.
It is.
like stuff here.
Yeah, when there's comics out there.
For
you know what I'm saying? So.
And we saw M'Baku for not enough scenes, in my opinion, in the first Black Panther. We saw him a little bit in the Avengers movies. I know you can't tell us or don't know what's happening, but what would you like? What's something you would like to see from M'Baku in the sequel?
Honestly, all I could do is trust Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler always comes through with, like, interesting stories. He comes through, and for all the secrecy that there is, it always yields something really dope, really positive. So I don't know where they're gonna go. It's the MCU. It's not like the Marvel universe from the comic books. So they always have the creative license to go anywhere they want.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of M'Baku, but M'Baku's that character that pretty much helped to, launch my career. So
Yeah.
I'm also always just honored going any direction that he's in and watching him kind of evolve.
Yeah.
So
now,
cool with that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about that whole moment was really Black Twitter's reaction to it. This is a Twitter show. So we would really be remiss if we didn't just take a brief, just a tiny, if you would indulge me.
Okay.
Look back, I know you're probably tired. I mean, because who wouldn't be tired of people telling them how handsome they are all day? But Anya the Diva tweeted, I know everyone is praising Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther, and I'm going to let y'all finish, but my eyes were on this 6'5", chocolate-bearded toboggan zaddy Winston Duke, Lord have mercy. Here's another one from Bitchipedia who said, so how do I break it to my man that I might leave him for M'Baku? I'm stressed. And I have to admit, because we've all decided to let me be embarrassed today, that I also shared thoughts on this show after the movie came out. Let's take a look.
Before, but the sleeper fine man from Wakanda has got to be Winston Fine-Ass Duke.
Yes!
Because Winston, who plays M'Baku, or as one of my Twitter followers called him, Baku, is just, he's like 6'4", 6'5", and just as thick as he wants to be. And I'm just like, it's just ridiculous.
This is one of those lessons where it's like, watch what you say, because you never know when you may be sitting down with the actor that you slightly thirsted over on the internet.
But there was nothing bad in anything that you said. Honestly, thank you so much, and thank you for the support. Because at the end of the day, as thirsty as it was, it was support. It was support. It was a little parched.
Just
a little dry in the throat. But it was support, and you helped to create a conversation around like positive body images, imagery and love and all that stuff. So I thank you for it, and it was something really positive, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
see, I don't feel so bad anymore.
Nah, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
We also want to talk a little bit about your other movie, Us. You also were in that movie with Lupita Nyong'o.
Of course.
And you guys were classmates, right, at Yale Drama School? What has changed? What is similar about your dynamic then that you guys were brought to that movie and to that set?
I think it's probably our penchant for exploration, and one thing that school also breeds is the healthiest version and interpretation of competition. So in classes and in productions, we would always challenge each other to be bold. Who could be the boldest and deliver the most bold interpretation of what's on that page? And then you'd watch that person do something big, and you go, "Oh man, I gotta come through too."
Right.
So it's like, you give me something, I give you something. You give me something, I give you something. It's just like,
it's just like a back and forth
dance. And it's always, so I think we brought that to our collaboration on Us. And we bring that to pretty much all the projects that we work on individually as well.
I have to ask you about your film 9 Days. Because it had a huge debut at Sundance Festival. Why are you excited for people to see this story?
I think it's one of those movies that you don't realize you need it until you have it. It reminds me, not in content, but in impact, but of Moonlight. We never knew we needed to see two Black men hold each other on screen and cry.
Right.
Until we saw it. You don't know that you need a conversation about mental health through the lens of Black bodies, mental health and existentialism, and an affirmation of life and poetry until you see it. It's one of those things I don't think audiences know that they want until they get it. And they experience it. It was incredible. It comes from a really great place. It's the debut film of director Ed Sonoda. And it's inspired, the lead character that I play, Will, is inspired by his uncle, Antonio Katsuja, who at 50 years old committed suicide. And at that point, his entire beautiful life, 50 years of full life, full living, was then defined by one action.
Yeah.
His family said he was weak. Don't be like him. Your uncle failed. Don't be like your uncle. So as Edson got older and went through his own depression and things like that, this beautiful story came out of it following that character and reimagining his uncle in the afterlife with a job of interviewing spirits for the opportunity to be born.
Yeah, that's such an interesting concept. I'm really excited for people to see it. Yeah.
Brilliant concept, and you know, it's might be a big idea, but the execution of it is really wonderful and on the ground and really cool.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those special things that was, you know, I know my career hasn't been the longest so far, but it was a passion project that
Yeah.
I just loved being a part of.
Yeah, and to speak to that point, you produce, right? What type of stories would you like to see made more, now that you're from the producing standpoint?
The stories I champion are kind of the stories of outsiders, people who are on the fringe in some way. And it doesn't have to be interpreted in anything that feels too on the nose. Like an outsider could be someone that's just outside of the mainstream, someone whose thinking is outside. Like, I think all the characters I've had the pleasure and honor of playing so far are in some ways stories of the outsider. You know, M'Baku's an outsider to the mainstream culture in Wakanda.
Yeah.
You know, we got to see him and see that he's fully human. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just an antagonist. He's a full guy who's like the leader of a community. And then we go to us and, you know, the Wilsons are outsiders in some way in culture, and then Adelaide's character is an outsider who broke in and is performing with a mask, you know? Hawk is an outsider himself, and you got to see exactly why when you watch Spenser Confidential.
Yes, tomorrow.
Right? You know, Will is an outsider, and he's a bit of self-imposed outcast as well. Yeah. So it's always this story of people who get to be seen, who are sometimes rendered invisible. And I love telling those stories because far too often that gets swept under the rug too much in like everyday life. You know what I mean? We don't really think of our privilege. And yes, there are people who are always more privileged than us, but we also have to look at our own and say, okay, this is my power.
What can I do with it?
What can I do with it? So
I think that's a great note to end on. We can't wait to see what outsider stories you tell next.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, watch Spenser Confidential. It's streaming on Netflix tomorrow, March 6th. Up next is more AM to DM.